Welcome to Rethinking Death.life, the podcast where we flip the script on the spoiler alert. Everyone dies.
Hosted by the witty widowed death doula duo,
Kathy Dempsey.
and Kim Harms.
We know our way around both life and afterlife prep. We tackle the big questions with humor and heart and a healthy dose of reality talk.
Whether you're planning your epic exit, pondering what's next, or just want to know if death really has a sense of humor, we've got you covered. Because rethinking death might just be the secret to truly living. Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Death.life, the podcast where we tackles life's final chapter with humor, honesty, and practical wisdom. I'm today's host, Kim Harms, death doula author, and your guide to navigating the end of life with intention. Today, I'm thrilled to have my good friend, fellow death doula, and typically co-host, Kathy Dempsey with me. Welcome, Kathy.
Thanks, Kim. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so excited to dive into today's topic.
Me too. It's a topic we both love, or maybe hate sometimes. The importance of downsizing, as we like to call it, shedding before you're dead. Kathy, this phrase always gets a laugh, but it carries so much wisdom. Why do you think downsizing is such a crucial part of end-of-life planning?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, downsizing isn't just about decluttering your physical space. It's about lightening up your emotional and your mental load as well. When we shed unnecessarily belongings and we simplify our lives, we create space for what truly matters, connecting meaning and peace. I had an example when I moved from the East Coast to Arizona. That was about 16 years ago. So I was in my 40s and I shed 95% of what I had. I donated to the Goodwill. I gave my grand piano to the church. I shed a lot of memories and shipped them off to my sister for all the family and that kind of stuff. And I moved to Arizona with 5 boxes. And let me tell you, Kim, you know, um, it was so freeing. I mean, I just felt like I could float away mentally and I really was ready to start anew here and didn't feel bogged down with stuff.
Oh boy, I understand that. In fact, when my husband was alive, we had a big boathouse full of stuff. It was packed full of stuff. And my daughter and my son-in-law both told us that we were not allowed to die until we had gotten rid of all the stuff in that house.
Oh no.
Well, my husband did not listen to them. He just died
Uh-oh.
anyway. He left me with the problem. It was overwhelming to me. The thought, I eventually got help. We'll talk about that in another episode, but I was able to get help. And when I was free of all of that, it was freeing to me. And I don't really miss this stuff, which I thought I would. Very important thing. So many people are overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff left behind. It's not just like a logistical burden, it's an emotional one too, because you're attached to all that stuff.
Sure.
Kathy, how do you help people shift their mindset around downsizing?
Well, I think the first step is to reframe it. Is a gift. It's a gift you're giving yourself. It's a gift you're giving your loved ones. I tell people when you downsize now, you're taking care and control over your legacy. So instead of family having to make decisions about all your belongings amidst the grief and you're making choices and all that kind of stuff, it's just a process as I experienced years ago that is so liberating.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. It's kind of really about taking control and being intentional, isn't it? But let's be real, letting go of stuff can be hard. I have experienced that. Do you have any strategies for people who feel overwhelmed by the idea?
Yeah. And let me just acknowledge too, most of us are have some emotional attachments to our stuff. And particularly stuff that's very meaningful, that reminds them of something. But I would say start first, very small. because it can be overwhelming. You just like shut down if you think, I can't do this. In fact, my realtor, when I moved from the East Coast to here, I said, "What is the biggest challenge that you have in selling houses?" And she said, "The biggest challenge is people won't sell their house because they don't know what to do with their stuff." And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting that a realtor would say that's the biggest barrier? But again, I would start small. Pick one drawer, one shelf, one box, one file cabinet, and set a timer for 20 minutes. And then just focus on that one little space and ask yourself these questions. Does this item bring me joy? Does it serve a purpose in my life right now? And would someone else benefit from it more than I do? And if the answer is no to all three of those things, it's probably time to shed and let it go. And remember, it's okay to feel emotional about it. This process isn't just practical, it's deeply personal. And what I do is after the 20 minutes is up, if I feel energized and I still got some excitement about it, I'll set the timer again for 20 minutes. And another 20 minutes. A few weeks ago, I did 3 rounds of 20 minutes and I took 5 bags to the Goodwill.
I need to take that advice. This is something I struggle with. So thank you, Kathy. Those are fantastic uh, questions to ask and great ideas. I think it's important to emphasize that downsizing isn't about getting rid of everything. It's about keeping what's meaningful and letting go of what isn't. Do you have any stories about people you've worked with who've gone through this process, Kathy?
Yes, yes, I do. Some of them very positive, some of them very painful. Uh, one woman, Grace, she was about 90 years old, and she said, she needed to leave her house that she had lived in for 40 years and go into more of a care center, continual care center. So, she started by downsizing the 40-year house and she moved onto the property and she had a very nice 3-bedroom house and I helped her move into that. And then the next year she got a little bit more health challenges and she had to move inside the building to a 2-bedroom condo and then into a studio. And then of course the last year of her life she was in a hospital room and it was painful for her to shed her stuff. Her grand piano, 8-foot grand piano, was the most difficult, and I'm saying it's not gonna make it through another move. And we talked about who could really benefit from it. And she had a great niece who was a music teacher for children. And so she sent the grand piano to her house. And she had an incredible library that we ended up donating to a seminary with all her books. It was incredible. But it can be very, very painful. And it's helpful to have someone to help you do this and make decisions on this as you are continuing to shed. And as I told her, everything we own, we will shed one day. And when it comes down to it, we're going to shed our bodies is at the end. So try to help people with that shedding process and honor them too, that it is hard and it is painful. When my dad died about 25 years ago, um, my sister and I went into the house that for decades we had lived in and grew up in. And I said, Virginia, do you want anything? And she said, I want the grandfather clock. And I said, well, I'd like to take the bedroom set. And we said, well, what about the rest of the stuff? And my sister and I talked and I said, we've had incredible parents. I mean, they died way too early in life, but why don't we give everything to the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home? Because the children's home, all the children, their parents are in prison. So they didn't have the best role models of parents. And so we called them up. They said, "Great, we'd love to." They pulled up a big van to our house and took everything in the house.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful, Kathy. And it's such a reminder that downsizing isn't just about stuff. It's about sharing your legacy while you're still here. Oh, let's talk about the emotional aspect a bit more. I understand that completely. I was tied down to all of my kids' little art projects while they were in elementary school. It was a hard thing to give that
Right.
up, but I did. I did. So, how do you support people who feel overwhelmed by the sentimental value of their belongings?
Well, as we talked a few minutes ago, that emotional attachment to stuff can be very, very hard. And sometimes we don't even realize why they're so attached to it. But one strategy that I found and I have used over the years is just to take pictures of the things. So you can get rid of the item, but you can still hold on to those memories that just don't need to be physically kept. For example, that old rocking chair might remind you of rocking your baby to sleep, but it no longer fits your space. You can take a picture of that and preserve that memory. I also encourage people to pass sentimental items on to loved ones now. It's so rewarding to see the joy that it brings to others. And sometimes creating a memory box with a few small, meaningful items can be enough to honor those memories.
Wow, yes, such practical advice. I've seen families create digital scrapbooks or videos to
Exactly.
the memories which take up no space, a very small space. Or we printed up some little books for my husband and my son that will remind me of them, and I can look through to remember special events in their lives that are just one small little book. So there's so many ways you can do that, and it's a way to keep the essence without holding on to the objects. What about when people just can't decide? Any tips for the indecisive
Well,
among
if
us?
you're really just stuck, create a maybe box, put those things in a box and revisit it in a few months if you have that ability to do at that. And oftentimes you'll find that the emotional attach fades a little bit and you're easier to let it go a little bit later. And for the really big decisions, entrust a friend or member or a death doula like us to help talk you through it.
And I have to say, I have employed a number of people that have helped me go through my stuff because I really this is not a talent of mine and I'm not very good at it. There are people out there that are great at it and they love organizing stuff. Who
Right.
knew? So I've been very fortunate to have people in my life that helped me to organize things, and I'm so grateful that they were here. So having someone to guide and support you can make all the difference. Kathy, what do you think is the biggest benefit of downsizing? People might not realize.
Well, honestly, it's that sense of just being free and just emotionally free. Your physical space is cleaner and letting go of that excess stuff. Uh, psychologically, it helps you let go of guilt and regret and sometimes emotional baggage. It's like clearing a path for joy and peace and flow into your life. And when you're not weighted down with clutter, you have more time and energy to focus on what really, really matters.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Downsizing can truly be a transformative experience. Kathy, as we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who just started this journey?
Well, start with grace. Give yourself grace and curiosity. Give yourself permission to take your time and to honor this process. And remember that downsizing isn't about loss. It's about choosing what you want to carry forward into the next chapter of your life.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing your wisdom and insight. And thank you for all of our listeners for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. And remember, downsizing isn't just a chore, it's an act of love for yourself and for your family. Till next time, I'm Kim Harms with my co host, Kathy Dempsey, encouraging you to celebrate life and rethink death.